Trae Young of the Atlanta Hawks went down last night with a really bad looking ankle injury, and this was a very concerning one because immediately after it happened, he was in an extreme amount of pain and he would require assistance to get up and off of the court. Now, on the actual play that Young was injured on, we saw him driving towards the basket where he would throw up a floater shot, and he jumped up normally, but as he was coming down, he seemed to come down very awkwardly onto that left foot, and it looked like the foot turned inwards into that classic ankle sprain position. Fortunately for Young, right after the game, he did have x-rays which came back negative, and he was due to have an MRI today. The results of that MRI are in, and he has been officially diagnosed with a grade 2 lateral ankle sprain, according to sources. Now, the position that Young's foot was in as he came down awkwardly is known as inversion, and when a person lands in this particular position, this puts many structures on the lateral portion of the ankle at risk. And since a lot of people may not know the anatomy associated with the lateral ankle, and they may not be too familiar with what a grade 2 lateral ankle sprain is, I'm gonna go ahead and focus on that in today's video. Welcome, basketball fans. For those of you that aren't familiar with me, my name is Nick Gallo and I'm a doctor of physical therapy. And with this video, I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at that most recent grade 2 lateral ankle sprain that Trae Young suffered against the New York Knicks. First, I'm going to start off by showing the actual play that Trae Young was injured on so that we get a good visualization for his mechanism of injury. Then I'll go over the anatomy associated with the lateral ankle and what a grade 2 lateral ankle sprain is. And finally, I'll go over what to expect moving forward after this particular type of a diagnosis. If you like today's video and you find it informative, please hit that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel because I will be making more videos in the future regarding sports injuries, rehabilitation, and other physical therapy related content. Also, if you have any comments or questions, please leave those in the comment section below. Now to begin, let's go ahead and take a look at the play that Young was injured on. Here we see Young has the ball, goes in for the floater, lands, and really starts to grab at that left lateral ankle region. He's in obvious noticeable pain and the medical staff moves in to check him out. In the slow motion replay, we see that as he comes down right here, that foot goes into that inversion ankle sprain position and he starts to grab at his ankle. So here I have a model of the foot and ankle, and so the two long bones in the lower leg, the tibia and the fibula, are going to come down, and on each side there's going to be a section of bone known as the malleolus. Now, the tibia is going to come down medially or towards the inside of the ankle. This is known as the medial malleolus. And the fibula, on the other hand, is going to come down laterally or on the outside of the ankle and form the lateral malleolus. Right below these two bones, there's another bone known as the talus, and you can see that bone right in through here. And these three bones together make up what we know as the ankle joint. Now, there are several movements that are at the ankle joint, but the one that is most applicable for this injury is a movement known as inversion. Now, when a person goes into inversion, this is when the foot is going to come in underneath of the leg just like that. Now, there is a norm value for inversion. This can vary based on the person, but typically the textbook norm value is going to be around 35 degrees. So a person should normally have approximately 35 degrees of inversion. Now, when we talk about lateral ankle sprains, and particularly the one that happened to Trae Young last night, when a person jumps up and they are coming down into that inversion position, this puts them at a lot of risk for potential damage to the ankle because as they're putting their body weight through the foot in that inversion position, they're going to go well beyond that norm value. So when a person does this, this is really going to stress those structures that are located on the lateral or the outside portion of the ankle. And that's kind of what we saw on the play that Trae Young injured his ankle. We saw that he was coming down awkwardly onto the foot. It went into that inversion position. And as soon as he hit the floor, we noticed that he was really grabbing at that ankle, particularly on that lateral or outside portion of the ankle, which is very common when a person lands in this position because in that position, those structures in the lateral portion are stressed most. Now, there are three ligaments that are located on the lateral or outside portion of the ankle that contribute to overall ankle stability. And the first one is known as the anterior talofibular ligament. And that ligament is going to go from the fibula to the talus right in through here. And this is actually the most common ligament that is sprained when a person lands into this inversion position. There's another ligament known as the Calcaneofibular ligament, and that's going to go from the calcaneus bone also to the fibula as well. And finally, in the back here, there is another ligament known as the posterior talofibular ligament. This ligament is going to go from the talus to the fibula, but this one is located posteriorly or towards the back. The first one is located anteriorly or towards the front. Now, like I said, usually it is that ATFL that is most commonly injured in these inversion ankle sprains. And generally speaking, the position of the foot when the person goes into that inversion position can increase the chances of which ligament is affected. So for example, the ligament is most stretched when a person is in plantar flexion and inversion. That is most likely going to put a lot of stress onto that ATFL. For the CFL, usually this ligament is going to be affected when a person is more in a neutral foot position, because it's going to be affecting it just like that. And finally, when a person is more of in a dorsiflex position, this is going to affect more of that PTFL. However, in Trae Young's case, they haven't announced officially what ligament is being affected at this time, but based on clinical practice and research, the most common one that is affected is that ATFL. Now, there is a grading system for these lateral ankle sprains, and they are grade 1, 2, and 3. In a grade 1 ankle sprain, a person is going to have some stretching of the affected ligament. However, there's not going to be any tearing. In a grade 2, a person is going to get that stretching, and they're also going to get some partial tearing of the affected ligament. And finally, in a grade 3 ankle sprain, this is when a person is going to have a full tear of that ligament. They announced today that Young, in fact, is dealing with a grade 2. So the ligament that is affected, they most likely saw the stretching and some partial tearing on that MRI. To get a better visualization of the grades of ankle sprains, I'll go ahead and use this napkin here. So in a grade 1, the person is going to have some stretching. However, everything is still going to be remained intact. There won't be any tearing at all. In a grade 2, this is when a person will get, of course, that stretching, but they will also have a partial tear to the ligament. So that is what that grade 2 will look like. And finally, for that grade 3, since that is a full rupture of the ligament, that is going to be where the ligament will tear fully. One positive thing that is definitely in Trae Young's favor at this point is the fact that the x-rays came back negative, because when a person is going to go into that inversion ankle sprain position, it's not just the ligaments that could potentially be affected. A person is also at risk for fracturing the lateral malleolus. They could also fracture the medial malleolus. They could fracture both, or they could also fracture that talus bone. So thankfully, in Young's case, he does not seem to have any fractures at this time. Now, once again, they've officially diagnosed Trae Young with that grade 2 lateral ankle sprain. And as of right now, sources are saying that he is expected to come back to play as soon as the pain and swelling have gone away in that ankle region. Now, when we're talking about recovery time, because I know some people will ask about this, generally speaking, when a person is dealing with a grade 1, the recovery time can vary a little bit, but generally speaking, it can be anywhere between 1 to 3 weeks. When a person is dealing with that grade 2, then we're looking more at about 4 to 6 weeks. And finally, when it is a grade 3, because it is that full rupture, then that's when we're expected to see several months until the person returns. So I think as of right now, if we're going off generally speaking, it's looking about that 4 to 6 time frame. However, it's going to be really important that we, of course, monitor Young's case moving forward and see how he does in therapy. Because Young is still in that inflammatory phase and the initial phase of the injury, right now, I'm assuming that he's being treated with the RICE acronym. R stands for rest, I stands for ice, C stands for compression, E stands for elevation. Typically, when we get an athlete or somebody in therapy and they are within the first 7 to 10 days of the injury, this person is usually going to be going about this type of conservative treatment. Then, of course, as the person is doing better, we'll start to work in more of those range of motion and stretching exercises to get usual ankle mobility back. Then, as they're feeling better, we'll start to add in more strengthening and more weight-bearing exercise. And once all of that is feeling good, then we'll start to put in some of those sport-specific movements. But of course, this will depend on a case-by-case basis. Once again, generally speaking, it is within that 4 to 6 week time frame, but everybody is different. I've seen it be a little less than that, and I've also seen it take a little bit longer than that. If I happen to hear any updates regarding Young's case, I'll be sure to update everybody in that comment section. Also, if you happen to hear anything, please also feel free to update everybody. And that's it as of right now regarding Trae Young's most recent grade 2 lateral ankle sprain against the New York Knicks. Once again, thank you very much for watching today's video. If you really like today's content, please subscribe to the channel because I will be making more videos in the future. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.